All right, good evening, everybody. It is, June 5th, 2025, and you're here at Third Rail Thursday. Trying to get derailed a little bit tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Bit of a gray day around here, and I'm at the opposite end of the layout this week. Today I'm going to be working on planning out some underground platforms and taking care of just a little more, adding some cork so I can build up where the passenger platforms are going to go. I'm on the cusp of being able to start working on this underground terminal. I mean, I've got a passenger station on deck. I've got all this research I've done on the size of roads and such, so I can start planning the city. It's just, I got to get some of this infrastructure stuff out of the way. And so I'm going to tackle some of that tonight. And really what the goal is that I want to make some templates for some of the weird shaped areas down in the passenger area so that I can take them back to the workbench and build scenes. So get back to the workbench, get to do the fun stuff there, television's on or music's on, whatever. And so I'm spending less time sort of standing in front of this monstrously deep part of the layout. Anyway, let's see who's jumped in already. I saw that this evening, if we're giving out the Timbits again, Kris from CP Whiskey Creek was first, so good evening to you. Pat Smith, always a pleasure. Bruce, Kraus Rails, hello to you too. Is BN Ironwood, my buddy. Trashman 2008. Jalou Hange, or GH, that's your new nickname. M&M Rails, nice to see you, Mark. Wigwag Workshop. Pine Valley Railway, nice to see you again. JSK Miniatures. JSK Miniatures is actually going to be at, not a Comic-Con, but a Prop Fest, I believe it was called, which is, I guess he's exhibiting, or he's got a table there. And interesting stuff because, you know, there are people in my household, certainly one of my daughters, who just loves cosplay. And so this seems to be like an extravaganza of sort of prop making and sort of like automaton mechanical stuff. So a bit of a shout out to him there. It's in Toronto. I think it might be this weekend or next weekend. Worthwhile taking a look at. If I wasn't busy, I would go down to it because those sorts of things are actually super inspiring. Anyway, back on track here. Jason Jensen, good evening, Jason. John Garvin, Pat Smith. I think I said Bruce, but good evening, Bruce. Awesome Possum, AEG, and Approach Medium. Anyway, yeah, so this is where I'm working tonight. You can see there's the platforms. And let me flip over and I'll show you what I need to take care of. All right, so with all of the passenger platforms here, it turns out I don't have enough roadbed for the platform, so it's dangling into space. So I just have to add some more cork and fill out the rest of the roadbed areas, which is done. Then I've got this area here, this sort of triangular area, that I'm planning to do something really interesting, I hope. And I mentioned in the last update that this track here, this is a new passenger platform that is separate from the rest of these platforms. And so I want to sort of turn this into some like little unique holding pattern shops or terminus or something. It's a neat spot to do something a little off the beaten path. And I don't know if you can see here, this is the portal that I can see in through. And so it's a fixed view into this passenger area, which is almost 3 feet deep. And so it gives me an opportunity to put some little scene or some little hidden Easter egg here. And then the last thing I need to figure out is this sort of curved, strange area down here. I think that I can easily fill this in with, let's say, rubble and then maybe like a passenger car that's gone off the track and maybe make it watery so it's like sinking with some pipes and such. So these levels where you've got the bustling passenger terminal over here, which is, you know, proper and doing its regular thing. You pop over here, there is sort of this isolated platform. You've got the trains running below with maybe some railing here, and then down here is the sort of chaotic scene, and the whole thing's viewed for a little picture window. So that's what, so getting this all laid out, so again, so I can pick up templates and go back to the workbench, is the plan for this evening. And I'm going to have to figure out how I actually do this. Good evening, James. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm probably going to start with getting the cork in and dried. I'm not sure if there's been a cork shortage, or maybe I was told there was a cork shortage, but it's been a real challenge getting cork. It seems to be sold out. And so I was lucky enough to pick up a really strange box of cork by Midwest, and there's no problem with the product of the box. Actually, it's 15 feet. It's a little box. That's actually, you know, a really decent way to buy this. But the downside of that is that it is absolutely bent. So I'm going to tear some of this up and I'm going to install it here and at least get those two platforms taken care of. I hope I have enough push pins to get this settled. But yeah. Haven't seen cork in a box like that before. Probably super easy to ship. So I'm going to just swing around to the other view here. And good evening, Todd Armstrong. So again, this is the face of the station, or the entrance to the station. It weighs almost nothing. It's made out of styrofoam. Oh, I have to mark it first. Well done. So let's pop up here for 2 seconds. Let me swing this around as well. So I just have to mark out where these two uprights are. I've got everything else laid out, but I need to make sure that the cork goes around them. And as you can tell by how far I have to reach up here, this is exactly the reason that I want to do everything on the workbench. Okay, I think I've got that marked out. It was the only thing I forgot to do before the stream started, was mark this. So, here's the wall. We'll put that out of the way. And you can see here now. So yeah, I'm going to build that in. All right. Let's get back to here. Mark, you started playing with the new track plan. I'm not sure if how many people here had the privilege of checking out Mark's live stream recently, sledgehammer in hand. But Mark is going to go down a very familiar road for a lot of us, and he's really considering starting over. And so all the encouragement you can give him, I would suggest you do it. So for each of these different rails, each of the actual tracks, there is just regular roadbed beneath them. And then when I figured the platforms needed to rest on the roadbed level as well, I put in these filler strips, really straightforward. And it turns out I just need one more on the outside edge of here and the outside edge of here. And that's just what I want to take care of tonight quickly before we get into sort of the templating. And then we can sort of have a discussion about what we can hide down there. All right, I need to get a bit of glue. I think I saw a question in there a little earlier about the common scale. I have to assume that most of the people joining us here tonight would definitely fall into the HO category. And Mark, if you are working on a new track plan, you may want to consider the discomfort from getting 2 steps up on a small step stool in order to just add ballast to your track. If I was to do this again, I wouldn't have added this big piece of fascia in the front of the layout before I'd finished all this. I maybe was a little too eager to get the fascia up to make the layout feel a little more finished. But it's up now, so I'll do this for about an hour and then I'll go lay down. Good evening, Floyd and Todd. Thanks for popping by. Okay. All right, that seems pretty good. And then add a little bit more out there. Now something that might be worth adding here, that I've almost exclusively, let's see here, almost exclusively switched over to using weld bond. And I mean, I used to buy gallons of white glue, and the only reason I'm using weld bond here with the Roadbed is that it doesn't reactivate with water once it's dry. And I think that there are a few people here tonight, I think even Mark might be one of them, that I learned the wrong way in the last layout, that if I used white glue, it dries up and it's amazing. And then when you start putting down the ballast, there's no problem. It's when I would flood the ballast with wet water and diluted glue that suddenly stuff would release and come up. And so just as a side note, it's like, okay, so I'm going to use glue that will never reactivate. And I suppose you could also use wood glue, but the weld bond was on sale, so that's what we're using now. Todd Armstrong. Oh my God, Todd Armstrong. Denny, I've been a model railroader for 58 years. I built a couple of N Scale layouts over the years, but the last one was 25 years ago. N Scale has come a long way. The detail now is crazy. It really is. I would say that the way things have advanced, even in the last 5 years, is pretty remarkable. And you know, I still buy used equipment all the time that's 25 years old, 20 years old, and I think it looks great because I'm looking at that equipment from 3 or 4 feet back as it's running around the layout. But then you get up and you see the detail of new equipment that's coming out. You know, I can speak to some of the Rapido offerings, the stuff that they do on the underside of those cars. I mean, underside details, things I would have never, ever even considered, and they're throwing them in there. It's unbelievable. Weld Bond is Canadian. I had no idea. Okay. Yeah, Curly Express. Certainly, those fires that are out west are, you know, it's terrible right now. And yeah, we have smog advisories or poor weather advisories coming into the Greater Toronto area for tomorrow, actually. And today it was brutally overcast. You know, very, very upsetting to say the least. Well, there's a nice product shot of Weld Bond there. Soon I'll be able to get out of this little area here and move on to the next. It would seem that putting on this cork is real thinking work because finding it challenged to remember to talk. But just about done here. And I haven't figured out how far this needs to go towards the middle of the layout. I need to roll some cars back in and measure how long 8 passenger cars is. So the standard I have for the layout is that I tried to make it so the platforms will hold 8 individual passenger cars. Now, I can only run on a 2% grade about 5, maybe 6 cars. So the platforms are longer than my minimum maximum train length, which I think looks nice. I think it looks better. I'm grateful I have enough space to actually put in fuller size platforms. Yeah, I'm locked in on this glue. We're just about done here though. Then I can put the, happy to be off of the step stool as well. Okay. I think that puts us in good shape there. All right, back we are. Okay. Floyd Robinson. Wilmer was in PA and he was complaining about the smoke. Yeah, quite a bit. Quite a bit. All right, so then if I put this back on top then. So now, yes, the edges of the platform now are on top of some cork. All right, perfect. Thanks for bearing with me. That is now complete. Let me drop the wall back in so I can start working on templating out the different areas to work on. There we go. All right, well, the fun stuff's over now. I've got the cork down. And so what I need to do is I need to be able to create some curved templates over in those two areas we talked about. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to create a whole bunch of really short strips of paper and run them along the edge of the curve and then just tape them together until I get sort of a paper mache looking template, and then I can transfer that onto some foam core and cut it out and make a proper template. And then if I want to add some plywood or some styrene or just simply paint it, again, I've got a drop-in, drop-out section. One of the things I was looking at for this area was based on a model that I did a little while ago. Let me just let me see if I can't find it here for a second. And it's this area and the lower area that I'm thinking about. Let me just grab this model for you. So this was something that I put together probably a couple of years ago, and it was part of a challenge to try to build a scene in a very small space. It was 10 centimeters by 20 centimeters. And so I did this sort of decaying city. I'll try to get it up there. And sort of like the open pipe work, and there's the subway car that's come through the tube track and has crashed into this sinkhole, I guess we'll call it. And this is sort of the approach, or this is sort of the inspiration I want to use for something down in that area, especially that sort of sunken area. So this spot down in here. And so the idea is that, not necessarily that this goes here, but the idea that there's this sinkhole sort of area. And as I put this in here, I mean, you could even consider putting some sort of like lost city, you know, sort of like a national treasure or something like that. An urban Atlantis, maybe we could call it. Looks like Gotham City. That's, you know what, that's a great idea. Gotham. Or something like Gotham. Come up with my own name though. The old New York from Futurama, yes. Maybe model a broken water or sewer main to explain why the sinkhole formed there. That's exactly what I'm thinking. So the trains are sort of riding above it. Maybe there's ne'er-do-wells, you know, sort of like Gollum or something. The equivalent of Gollum running around down in that area. All right, let's see if this process for trying to create a template down there works okay. Let's flip over to the camera. John Garvin, you meet a place for Ron Perlman to hang out as Vincent. My guy, I absolutely loved Ron Perlman as Beauty and the Beast. Yes, Metropolis, for sure. It also reminds me a bit, was the movie Dark City, I think it was? Good evening, the Closet Branch. All right, so what I'm thinking I'll do is I will just start putting... Oh, that didn't work well, did it? Definitely going to need some bigger chunks of paper than that. Well, this might be okay. Mr. Exotic Viper, I finally made it to a stream. Sucks I'm not home yet. Well, drive safe. Good evening, Mr. Trackside Mike. Hope you're keeping everything on the tracks. So if you're just popping on, what I'm attempting to do right now is create a rough template of this strange little landing area down here so that I can create like a diorama or something at the workbench that I can just pop back in here. So I've already, Denny, you need two-sided tape. The problem with two-sided tape, James, is that I struggle to get it apart. Yeah, you know, the Gotham reference and stuff has really got me thinking about the fact that you could put just sort of Forgotten City stuff down in here. Originally, I thought about some sort of spillover water feature, but now that you mention it, I have enough of those outland scale model buildings that you could just do one-sided structures all around the inside of this, and so then when you viewed through, you did have this sort of heavily forgotten city. I think this may have changed my approach a little bit. Jason Jensen, do you ever buy large sheets of cork for under the track or large areas? Yeah, Jason, you the dollar store has, in fact, I've got one right here. Hey, Jason. So yeah, this is the stuff we can get at the dollar store. I think it's 2 sheets for $1 or $2. My understanding, it's 5 millimeters thick, and this would be something perfect to actually put down in there. Because what I can do with it then is I can just break the edge and that'll give you a lovely busted concrete look. The only reason I don't use a lot of this is that 5 millimeters is roughly 2.5 feet tall. And so everything like roadways and roadbed and stuff for N scale is 3 millimeters. And so this is just a little oversized. The other thing though, as I said a little earlier, is that cork apparently was at a bit of a premium and I haven't seen this in a while. So I only have 3 or 4 sheets left. Typically when I go into the dollar store, I see if I can't grab some. But yeah, for sure, this would be a great base for that little sort of forgotten sinkhole area. Oh, Fraggle Rock. Oh, yes. And then Madam Trash Heap. House of Horrors, absolutely. I do have quite a bit of, quite a number of those outland buildings left over. I'm curious if people in the chat, only because they're principally N scale, have a good night, Closet Branch, are actually familiar with outland scale models. They're a very, very affordable structure series, and I think part of the reason that they exist and they are affordable is that they are very close to N scale. They're a little closer to 1150 than 1160, which is your standard N scale. But they exist because there is a real thriving Gundam market in Japan and China and such. And so they are very, very affordable. We're talking $6 or $7 per a skyscraper kit. And all the sides of the building are fairly, you know, generic. There's nothing special about them. But they make for great bases for buildings, and I've used them a lot and bought them a lot. I'm hoping that it's becoming the 1:144 scale kits look good then. Pat Smith, yeah, they look okay. They look okay. I think what happens is that when you combine the Outland model kits at the sort of gross scale, and when you put them up against, or at least my opinion, when you put them against something that's a little more fine scale or a better design, it becomes pretty apparent that one's pretty clunky and the other one's a better model, really. But at the same time, for $6 or $7 or $8 a piece, I'm not going to get that particular about them. Let's see if I don't have an example here. So this is one of the models. I redid this one, but this is an Outland scale model, and that's the back of the building. I added the fire escape, but there's not a lot of detail on it. And then the front of it, the paint job, and like, this is Freddy Fazbear's. It's a pizzeria on the first floor, and 6 flights of pure animatronic terror above that. And certainly I added like the paint job and the awnings and stuff. But the design of the building, it's pretty basic. Just little square windows. It certainly has a more sort of Japanese or Chinese architecture flavor. But again, this was a $8 or $9 kit. It's probably up to $12 now. And so you can imagine that if you only need 2 faces of this, sort of like the angle I'm holding it, and you put it around the inside of that area, you could in very short order come up with sort of a forgotten city pretty easily. King Kong? Well, I don't know about that, Mike. I do like the Gundams, though. I have a couple of the buildings out here. Let me see what else I've got. Get a couple more pieces of tape in this. Here's another little guy that was sitting out. Here, let's see. So they have really small shops that come in 2-packs. And this is one that I modified for Halloween, and it's based on a little shop of horrors. Audrey 2 is actually a pistachio shell. But I think you can see the general architecture of the building. It's just, you know, some of the walls on these are very, very plain, hardly anything going on at all. And so again, I think it would actually be really easy to get a series of these little guys, and they would actually look probably pretty appropriate down there. And I do have some laying around. Yeah, I made Audrey 2's plant mouth out of a pistachio shells, which is a great deal because I only needed one shell, and I was able to get like a whole bag to treat myself. Okay, so I think that side of that's done, and I am already out of paper, so let's get some cutting to go on here. Jump into the chat and see what's going on. Good evening, Timmy's Miniatures, thank you very much. I did a Ghostbuster station, but I modified that one a little more heavily. It'd be challenging to use that as a great example. And the other couple buildings that I can see from here, I actually can't reach. Oh, I've got a building. Of course I do. One second, let me grab this. So this was newer. I took care of this one last year. And so again, these are Outland scale models, and this is an entire complex that I have flattened. So basically there's the front and the backs of the buildings, and I just flattened it all out to sort of make this large apartment complex. It has no back to it, and those are the sides as they come out of the box. Right, so there's one building, two building from the sides, one building, two buildings, and so really this is two full kits to make a fairly tall, what do we got, 13-story building. But probably the total investment on kits for something like this was not $20, $20, $22, something like that. And you can buy them directly from Outland scale models. Let me just put this back. So the approach that I would probably take is, as I said, infill with those kits. They're nice to kit bash. They are very affordable. They make just great general urban structures, and that way I can infill them. Unfortunately, I don't think they make HO. And really, there is a real deficit in urban buildings. I was very fortunate to find out that because of Gundam modelers, there's a lot of urban buildings for that, and it generally sits in and around the N scale size. It varies, but N scale buildings work really well. But I don't see the same sort of supply for the HO people. To James's point, do they make for HO? I don't think they do. I haven't seen anything. The other thing that I was talking with Kris, I think I mentioned this before,
Kris from Go Via or Go Home, is there's not a lot of modern train stations. I have a kit, your standard Union Station kit, that I'm looking forward to kitbashing. I hope that sooner than later, and I really want to modify it quite a bit to try to give the flavor of the Union Station that's down in Toronto, with the exception being that it'll be 1/6 the length and it's not the same building at all, but I'm hoping to do a couple things to make it look similar. And as he pointed out, like, it's hard to find a modern passenger station. Certainly a lot of the stations that I'm interested in, particularly even at West Harbour Station, looks nothing like any kit out there. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a hole. Sort of modern urban buildings. I would trade 10 water towers for one urban building. Timmy's Miniature, I've seen them for 187 and 164. Okay, so they do exist. Success tonight will be if this thing pulls out and I make a perfect template. Man, I'm excited about this, maybe a little shift in approach here. I'm trying to put a little urban city down here. Of course, that would be, you know, the standard approach would be that I'm trying to get to the outside of the layout, like the actual passenger platforms and the other parts that are critical, and instead I'm now going to focus on a hidden city. But much like graffiti, you know, I want to practice on something that isn't necessarily the showstopper or the feature piece. Two random crap 3. If I had the money, I think about getting an S scale building or 2 for Gaslands. You know, I've looked at Gaslands before, that if I was ever going to do any sort of tabletop stuff, it could be the perfect gateway game. Mac Irvine. Yep, just looking at the website. Not a large selection as in N Scale. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, okay, so Pat, what it is that I can't imagine trying to drop a piece of paper in here and trace the shape of this area. And so what I'm trying to do is just use these paper strips to build the contours of, like, the outline, and then I'm going to pull this out, lay it on some foam core, hopefully just trace around the paper strips, cut it out, and have the perfect template that I can just pop back in. And I think I'm pretty close to being able to pull them out. The other thing that I'm hoping to do is to illuminate this area. And if I've got one handy, maybe I'll show you my exciting little find. I got some I got little LED street lamps. I think you can see that there. And technically, these are what they considered to be the Z scale ones. But this is roughly 45 or 50 millimeters tall, which makes it about 25 feet. And I would like to put these in between the archways and the platform. And then I'm also thinking I could put little streetlights on the lower cities. I just haven't figured out what the most appropriate way to deal with these absolute hair-thin wires and how to add lighting effects on the visible side and then a convenient way to wire them on the underside. I haven't figured that out yet. Dundas, where did you find those? James, I think it was either AliExpress or Temu. I think I got them a little while ago. And again, very, very affordable. Okay, home stretch here. Check out the Evan Designs LEDs. I just started adding them to my layout. Super nice, super easy to work with and install. Thank you very much. Timothy Johnson, to wire lights, run a pair of bus wires underneath and wire them parallel. Yeah, for sure. 1 second here. Yeah, that was the approach I was thinking made the most sense. Just treat it like track work. Truly, I'm very unexcited about crouching to wire them up. I wish it was a little easier. I guess what I'm thinking is trying to find some sort of plug end basically to put on them so I can feed them down and just clip them into the bus, so to speak, as opposed to, let's say, soldering them in place. All right, let's see if I can't, if this won't come out now. Oh, maybe another piece of tape down here. Missed a spot there. Another spot there I missed. Almost coming out. There we go. All right. All right. So, in theory, that's the piece I need to duplicate for my little baseboard. So let's see. I will get a chunk of foam core here and see if it's big enough. That piece is not big enough. All right, well, let's put a bit of a holding pattern here. Got some. I don't know how I'm going to do this. Well, you know what? I'm just going to, you can watch me struggle here as we work our way through this. So I'm going to get this up on here. Okay, so that's on there. Start running the X-Acto knife around here. JSK miniature, maybe just solder some JST connectors to them. What's a JST connector? I have, I purchased connectors and I forget what the DuPont connectors. They are a bit fussy, but they're quite small and very affordable. Never cut toward your thumb. Remember safety first. Thank you, Michael. Okay, let's see how we did. I'll clean up the layout room later. Okay, so foam core. JST are those tiny white 2-pin connectors. Thank you very much. I will take a look for them. So this should, let's take a look over here then. So this should just about drop down with maybe a few little trims. Yep, a little big. Okay. Oh, JST Japanese solderless terminal. Thank you very much. But I found some, okay, so micro wire connectors. Okay, that's actually just really helpful. You know, I can look. A lot of times the biggest challenge I have is I don't know necessarily what I'm looking for, and so it makes it far more challenging to find it. But as soon as you have a name, I can sort of go with that. Okay, is this the one that works? Almost there. So we're a little tight. Get a marker out. We'll just mark a little spot. And around in there and around in there. Okay. Timothy Johnson, the one I found are very similar. Okay, well this is encouraging because I can start looking for these things and see if I can't find something. Because again, my driving goal is to not lay underneath the layout for any extended period of time for any reason. Okay, that can come off now. And so any way that I can basically lazily drill the holes on the top side of the layout and just drop the wiring down beneath is a benefit to me. Still feels like it's going to be a bit tight. Oh, we're almost there. Even if you spec electrical connectors every day, it's still a bit of a chore. Yes, the great MOA. 100%. On the layout that I had before I tore this one out, I did a lot of work with Arduino controllers, and I had probably a dozen Arduinos, fastened on the underside of the layout with a rat's nest of wire going from turnouts and different light things back to these controllers. And then what I would do is that when I needed to make a change, I would lay on the floor with my laptop and plug the USB in and reprogram them if I wanted to make a change. And that was, I've said before, I mean, it was a great experience. I'm happy I did it. It was really cool to get some of these automations and control things in. And I don't want to be on the underside of this layout, hardly at all. I want to be on the top side of it. So whatever I can find to put a little bit of lighting and drop some wires and plug them in. I'm not against being underneath the layout to do it. I just don't want to be on my back on a creeper soldering for days and getting flux in my eyes. Flux. All right, so I just need to trim that down a little bit. So close, come on. My idea was good, work. Okay, almost there. I need to trim off a little bit here, and then a little bit over here. Good evening, Steve87. YouTube, I'm hoping to build modules that I can turn upside down on my workbench. Absolutely. Speaking about turning something upside down on the workbench, I did see that Rapido was releasing those N Scale subways, and I have no reason for them here. But immediately I was thinking, geez, it would be nice to build a little bookshelf layout, because you didn't need the city on top or anything underneath. You could just have windows with station platforms. But I think I'm not ready to model 7 or 8 different station platforms in N scale. I think those are one of those things that would just be nice to 3D print. Okay, how close are we? Almost. We're really close now. Okay, one more couple trims here. Remember to wear glasses when you're soldering. Absolutely. Proper glasses, not my glasses. My prediction is this is the last cut I need to make, and I'll have this template in place. come on. Big money. Okay, there. Perfect. All right, why don't we take a second here. So what I think I'm hoping with that then is that I might just leave the foam core, although I find that foam core, that's dollar store foam core, and the paper layer comes off way too easy, and it warps really badly too. So I might then take that, and I do have some 1/4 inch plywood scraps laying around. I have some masonite scraps laying around, and I'll probably sort of glue that onto it. And then to the earlier point with the cork, you know, it works really well. Its edge breaks really nice. So if you can imagine that you've got a cement foundation and you can break it out to do like the look of the sinkhole, or, you know, a waterway, a rogue waterway that's broken its way in. I think that Go Via or Go Home uses exactly this cork to build like the sidewalks and foundations for his buildings. And so for my scale, this will work really well to do broken concrete. So I can actually stack it and build it up. So yeah, maybe some sort of like rivery area coming through the middle here, and then I build up some cities on either side of it. I wouldn't dare use Roadbed to do that. It's too expensive. All right, do I have enough time? Is it quick enough for me to figure out this last little platform? I think it will be. Let's do that as well then. But I'm going to take a different approach. All right, so I don't need a big piece. Let's figure this out. All right, I'm gonna go, let's see here. Gotta jump up on the stool now. Oh, I know what I can do. I'm going to be clever. Let's see if anyone can guess my next move here. There. Make an angle template. Okay. All right, so my little angle gauge came up with a piece of foam core in the right shape. Now, definitely up on this upper area, I'll have to be a little more finicky about things, because that's where I do want to put in this sort of large passenger platform, or like a waiting area. If you've been into the Toronto Union Station in particular, below the tracks they have a large area with benches and elevators and food court and such. So I want to make some sort of really broken down version of that. Okay. Actually, that works pretty well. Aha. So yeah, so that is basically now the template for my raised platform. So that one I will probably, that little platform, I probably will recreate it with a bit of the laser cut plywood. Probably produce something that isn't this. These are the wrong shape, but cut out a sheet that looks like this. That's like sidewalk squares, maybe 5 or 10 feet square. And then I can use that foam core panel to properly mark out and cut out this, which I'll paint then like a concrete pad. I did a bunch of concrete painting a few months ago when I was actually working on painting the passenger platforms. We went through and did some of that, and I've been working with putting little bits of cork underneath them so that they're now solid, and so when they sit on top of the platforms, I've got a perfect gluing surface. I can just put a drop of glue on that cork and these will attach themselves. And yeah, that'll be, once I get that going and get that city starting to building up down there, then I can also start working on painting all of this concrete, which I am very, very excited to get that underway. So let's see, in terms of next steps, so those baseboards are now cut out. I've got all of the decoration work done on the inside walls of these passenger platforms. I handled this, these little guys, just past Sunday when I just jumped on for a little while. So these line the other surfaces of the inside of this little subterranean station. I've now got these pieces of foam core cut out, which I can now just sit at my workbench and I can start using chunks of foam and maybe design a little city or something, which I'm more and more enthusiastic as I sit here. I'm excited about that, genuinely excited. I can also start planning out this station platform. And so really I need to get to, I suppose, weathering all of this track or painting all of this track, getting the inside of this all painted like a dark gray or something. Oh, and the lights. I got to get the lights started up. I don't want to leave the lights too long. What was the questions? Let's see. Trackside mic, what about behind the tracks? Oh, spoken word, okay. And I'm going to guess at the weld bond, so all the pins can come out because this cork is now dry, or welded, if you will. So, yeah. So maybe, I'm not sure if I ever really explained it, but the passenger barn from Toronto Union Station, of which these are the supports, I'm going to continue these all the way through, right to the end of the passenger platforms. So it's a bit, maybe it's a bit silly that there'll be covered platforms inside of an underground sort of terminus. But I want to have that look and feel, and that way it seems like the passenger platforms are a lot longer. And also I've already made all these, I printed them, so that's what's going on. Trackside Mike, we don't know what the crown's about. So yeah, these can continue to slide all the way back into here. I'll pull those pins out later. But yeah. Well, you know what? I figured that cutting out the templates was the bare minimum I could sort of do tonight. And I appreciate you guys for keeping me company with that one, because let's face it, that's not the most engaging thing you could ever do. But I am internally grateful for the suggestions that came through here about some of the different treatments that I could do down there. And definitely I'm going to launch into doing those. Yeah, I can hardly wait to start building up that city. I hope I just don't get too carried away in the one part of the layout that nobody sees. It's like the last place that people are going to look. But I'll try to split my time between taking care of other stuff that's going on here. Timothy Johnson. Oh, thank you very much, Mike. The foam core. The barn underground, you say, covered over years ago. Yeah, I'm starting, yeah, I think I like this sort of arc where basically the city's built atop another city. I like this a lot. And it's not uncommon too. If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube, look for videos about abandoned New York subway stations. It is amazing. It is great stuff. Anyway, I think, so first of all, thanks for joining me. I think that I've reached a decent spot for tonight, and I appreciate you guys joining me. I'm happy that you guys were hanging out, because this, I am genuinely excited about getting to this. So, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out with me. Ultimately, thank you for keeping me company. I hope I kept you company as well. And you'll see me in the next live stream. All right. Thank you very much. See you next time.